I'm not the guy who's here for Puffy's downfall, but I am the guy who supports the victims who got victimized, right? That boy life is dangerous. His life is in, and he's just not dangerous with the they said he was doing, but he's in danger. He knows too much.
The footage is grainy, of course it is. These places are designed to keep secrets, not reveal them. But what the video lacks in pixels, it delivers in pure horror. There he is, yes. That's Suge Knight, tumbling like a ghost down a filthy prison corridor. It looks like a standard inmate transfer, nothing more. But then, from the shadows, two masked figures lunge out like they've been waiting. No hesitation, no warning. They pounce on him like wolves, slam him hard into the concrete, yank him through a side door that looks like it hasn't seen a guard in years. There are no witnesses, no security cams inside. Just a hollow clank as the metal door seals shut behind them. And just like that, the man who once ran death row records like a mafia boss, disappears. For nearly 3 hours, Suge Knight completely vanished. No logs, no documentation, no incident report for a man yanked from sight in a federal prison. The Federal Bureau of Prisons has offered zero transparency. No timeline, no health update, just silence. The only thing we have is that eerie, silent video and one blaring question. How does something
named Diddy 77 times in court documents related to Tupac's murder
this calculated happen in a maximum security facility crawling with federal surveillance? If you think it's random, you haven't been paying attention. The footage spread like wildfire across forums, group chats, media feeds. But it's not just the violence causing alarm, it's the choreography, the execution. The masked men didn't move like inmates. They moved like professionals. This wasn't a fight, this was a hit, and that side room they dragged Suge into, it doesn't appear on any official map. According to an anonymous ex-officer, that wing's been shut down for years. So why was it open? Why was it used? And who greenlit the transfer that led him there? Whispers of an inside job are everywhere. Now, inmates talk, guards talk, and when those stories align, you know something's off. Word is guards were paid off. Footage was scrubbed, and doors were opened on purpose. One retired warden didn't mince words. This don't happen unless somebody lets it happen. Meaning someone up top either looked away or gave the nod. And that points the finger at the system itself. The silence from officials only fuels the suspicion. And Suge, he hasn't said a thing. Maybe he's scared, or maybe he's planning something. Behind all this chaos brews a theory that refuses to die. A conspiracy that ties this ambush to something far older, far darker. Back in the height of the East Coast versus West Coast war, $1 million bounty was rumored to be placed on both Suge Knight and Tupac. The man allegedly behind the offer, Sean Diddy Combs. Crazy, maybe, but Suge Knight himself made the claim more than once. And now, an old police interview from 2009 with Dwayne Keefe D. Davis is resurfacing, and it's chilling. In the video, when asked if Diddy ordered the hit, Keefe D. barely flinches. Yeah, I think he did, he says, then adds that Diddy once offered anything for Suge's head. A former D informant even backed it up, claiming Diddy put out $1 million contract on both Shocker and Knight. Which raises the question, was this prison assault really about Suge's past finally catching up to him? Or was it about his future and someone desperate to silence it? Why now? That's what everyone's asking. Suge just lost a key appeal. His civil case over Terry Carter's death is gaining traction again. And in Diddy's world, things are crumbling. Multiple federal raids, lawsuits, and a trial that has dragged his name through hell. His name's been mentioned over 50 times in his own case, and Suge's name keeps popping up right beside it. Some believe this ambush was a message. Shut up, or else. Knight's Prison Podcast. Collect Call has been throwing gasoline on old fires. He's been dropping cryptic hints and calling out old enemies. Last year, he told listeners that Diddy knows about a little room where dirty deals went down, and not all of them were about music. They gon' get you if they can, he warned. At the time, it sounded like tough talk. Now it reads like a prophecy or maybe a final warning. And there's another thread one most people ignore. Suge is still, in some way, tied to the old death row empire. Snoop Dogg may own the brand now, but insiders say the money behind that machine never really left. It just changed shape. Lay low. Wait. And now, if Suge still holds keys to secrets that could expose major players, someone out there might want him silenced for good. They say pressure bursts, pipes, or forces confessions. But if the plan was to break Suge Knight, it may have done the opposite. Instead of silencing him, that leaked surveillance footage cracked open the fragile illusion of order inside a maximum security prison, 2 masked attackers, a mysteriously timed transfer, and not a single Fed willing to step up and explain what happened. That's not a glitch, that's a cover-up. The footage didn't just show an ambush, showed complicity, a system that looked the other way when the gates opened. 3 law firms on Diddy's payroll and cash, bleeding out faster than it's coming in. This ain't just legal cleanup, it's damage control. Suge's list of enemies is long. Dre, who Suge claimed tried to have him taken out. Ice Cube, who wouldn't meet with him before Terry Carter's fatal hit-and-run. And Diddy, allegedly tied $2 million contracts on lives like it's business as usual. These aren't diss track beefs. This is survival. And if those bounties are still floating in the shadows, there's no expiration date on street justice. Suge's been saying for years that Tupac didn't just die, he was handed over. According to Knight, Pac begged not to be saved that night. In Vegas, "I'll die before I go back," he reportedly said. People called it paranoia, but what if it was prophecy? What if the same game that took Pac is still being played and Suge's name was always next in line? This ambush might not be new. It could be the continuation of a war that never actually ended. And if that's true, the next target may already be marked. Inside R.J. Donovan Correctional. Suge Knight isn't just a name, he's a storm cloud. Some want to align with him, others want to challenge him, but nobody ignores him. When he arrived, the air shifted. His presence created instant tension. Status for some, threat to others. He's been moved, isolated, locked down, but the danger follows. Old alliances mean little behind bars. Blood ties can rot. And now, according to inmates who've since been transferred, factions were planning something for months. Not out of music beefs, but because Suge won't shut up. He's taken shots at Snoop, Dre, Diddy on a podcast recorded from a cell. And in prison, where silence is survival, Suge's mouth is a liability. Some say he's been trying to rebuild alliances, shift the power structure like it's still the 90s. But this ain't death road's lockdown. And that thirst for dominance, that refusal to bow out, that's what makes him such a perfect target. One former gang affiliate put it bluntly. He's playing chess in a yard full of kings who already declared war. And the real question no one wants answered: what about the guards? Since the footage dropped, the Bureau of Prisons has said nothing. No investigation, no charges, not even a generic statement. By protocol, a violent incident like that should trigger paperwork, reviews, interviews, but the paper trail is missing. So either the system failed or it was designed to. According to one federal whistleblower, this might not even be the first time. The silence, that's not for Suge. It's to protect them. They're hiding more than a beatdown. We're talking falsified documents, blind cameras, unregistered movements. Inmates transferred into ghost wings that don't even exist on official maps. Sounds like a Netflix thriller, but so did that $1 million bounty until multiple sources confirmed it. And the most disturbing part, according to inside sources, Suge Knight may not be the last name on the list. Suge Knight has now been placed in administrative segregation prison, speak for solitary confinement, but not for his safety. No, he's not being protected, he's being investigated. According to sources, the Bureau isn't probing the masked attackers. They're pointing the finger at Suge, accusing him of somehow instigating the assault. It's a narrative twist that reeks of setup, not justice. And for those whispering in courtrooms and label boardrooms, it confirms what they've suspected all along. Someone powerful isn't just trying to silence Suge, they're framing him. It's déjà vu. The same chilling language from Suge's past court battles is resurfacing. Prosecutors painting him as a threat to the entertainment world itself. If that stigma followed him behind bars, then he's not just battling inmates, he's at war with the system, and the timing couldn't be worse. The civil retrial over Terry Carter's death is heating up. Suge's unpredictable testimony could blow everything open. He's already accused LAPD of conspiring with Dr. Dre to take him out, waving around canceled checks in court as proof. Dre denied it, but the court admitted it. That alone is insane. And after this brutal prison attack, what once sounded like conspiracy suddenly feels like coordination. Was Suge preparing to drop a bombshell in court? Did someone catch wind of it inside or outside and decide to shut him up before he could speak? Because the deeper you dig, the more tangled it gets. Down south labels like Cash Money and No Limit were turning pennies into platinum, while East Coast giants like Bad Boy were desperate to hold their turf. And Suge and Diddy, they were the center of that hurricane. Which brings us to the chaos exploding outside the prison walls. Diddy's facing a federal trial stacked with disturbing accusations, abuse, manipulation, and industry corruption. Cassie Ventura's testimony cracked the dam. And now, former assistants, bodyguards, and execs are flooding forward. And in the shadows of every shocking revelation, Suge Knight's name mentioned over 50 times. Their feud was never just about music. It was a war for power. A war for legacy. There was no middle ground with Suge. He worshipped Tupac, and he loathed anyone who even mentioned Biggie in the same sentence. That obsession ran deep, and it's not lost on anyone that Suge, sitting in a concrete cell, recently warned Diddy not to end up stripped and broken on suicide watch. Whether that was concern or shade, one thing's clear: Suge knows exactly how fast your empire crumbles when the walls close in. And he's hinted more than once, Diddy isn't the only one holding secrets that could detonate the industry. Tell the real truth and bring everybody accountable. He told ABC. That line sent chills through every high-rise office in the music business, because buried under the gold records and platinum plaques is a legacy soaked in blood. The so-called death row curse isn't just spooky folklore, it's a pattern. Tupac gunned down in Vegas. Biggie murdered months later in LA, the collapse of Snoop and Suge's alliance, the shooting at Chris Brown's party, and now Suge, beaten and locked down again. You call it coincidence, some call it karma, others call it a war that never ended. The psychological weight of that legacy is crushing. Death Row was built on dominance, fear, and backroom power plays, and that energy never left. It just morphed. Some believe the ghosts of Death Row still walk the prison yard, still haunt studio sound booths, still whisper through lawsuits and sealed indictments. And as the past collides with the present, the industry's dirtiest secrets are clawing their way to the surface. In Suge, he might be the last man alive who remembers everything. Even the ones who tried to walk away from Death Row's dark legacy never truly escaped its grip. Because Death Row wasn't just a label, it was a battleground, built on fame, fear, and force. And now, it feels like that battlefield has returned. What once launched West Coast dominance is now devouring the very architects who made it legendary. And when someone came along to reignite East Coast rap, the industry's old players panicked. There was nothing they could do to stop the momentum, except maybe silence the past. Now Suge sits alone in a cell, locked inside a system that looks more like an executioner than a warden. And it's raising a terrifying question. Was his downfall really decided by a courtroom? Or was it written by fate or something darker? Death Row was sold, rebranded, dressed up with nostalgia. But the bones of the empire, they're still buried in cursed ground. And if Suge Knight is just the latest sacrifice, maybe Death Row never really died. Maybe it just traded platinum plaques for concrete blocks and razor wire. So this is where we are, a savage ambush, a suspicious silence from federal authorities, and a leaking video that may have just triggered hip-hop's next era of chaos. The footage cracked something open, and now, old beefs, buried secrets, and legal time bombs are all rushing back to the surface. And in the center of it all, Diddy with Keefe D's trial circling in whispers of a long-buried deal linking him to the murder of Tupac. Some say the sex trafficking charges are just smoke, the real fire. That murder-for-hire conspiracy from decades ago. And here comes the final twist. What if Suge wasn't the endgame? What if the prison attack was just step one in a larger play? A message. A purge, the beginning of a campaign to erase every last witness from the Death Row era. If this was just the first domino to fall, then who's next? Could it be that the real truth behind Tupac and Biggie's deaths is finally clawing its way into daylight? And if that's the case, who's really orchestrating it? So now we turn it over to you. Is this just prison politics playing out in a broken system? Or are we watching the curtain rise on the next great reckoning in hip-hop history? Drop your theories in the comments and, don't forget, history has a way of repeating itself, especially when the ghosts never really left.